Welcome back. I have another quick tip video for you here. This time we're going to talk about some tools that are more like shortcuts. They don't do anything that we couldn't do, which is regular Boolean operations, but they help speed up the process. That would be crop and punch and trim to finger size. Let's start with crop and punch. So basically this tool is just going to take a curve, extrude it indefinitely on both sides so that it goes through your object and then does a Boolean subtract or a Boolean intersection. That's really all it's doing. But it saves you a lot of steps and it does a few extra things. So let's take a look at it. Basically, you can launch the tool with nothing selected and then plug in a curve. And the same rules apply for extrusions. This needs to be a closed planar curve so that you do get a solid object from it so that it will Boolean properly. So no open curves and no non-planar curves. And then I'll plug in my object, which is any object that I want to cut. And we choose crop or punch. So a crop, let's go ahead and validate that, is going to cut away what's inside your closed curve. We'll undo that, and I'm going to pre-select this time. I'll select the curve and the object and do a punch. Okay, so you get the opposite effect. That would be a Boolean intersection between what is the two objects created from the crop and punch extrusion. Okay. Now, one thing it does that you can't do with just a regular Boolean without doing a couple steps is to slice this into two parts. So we're going to do a crop and punch. Only it doesn't matter crop or punch. I'm going to do keep both sides. And you see that it will do both a subtraction and an intersection all in one step. So this is another really nice shortcut if you are creating these objects where you want two parts to fit together nicely. Finally, the one I get the most questions about at the support desk is, what is this open shape if possible? So it works with crop or punch. I'm going to crop it, click on open shape if possible. Basically, this is going to remove the faces that are touching the inside of your curve. It does say if possible. It doesn't always work depending on what shapes you drew or what objects you're trying to cut. But if it's able to, it will go ahead and remove the face as well. So creating a non-solid object or a surface object. So may be useful for some of you. So that's pretty much it. Trim to finger size is basically just a crop and punch, but instead of using your own curve shape, it uses a ring size builder. That could already be built into a ring, or it could be just selecting the ring size itself. So let's take a look at that. Let me hide these. Before we get into that, I want to show you that you can just use a regular crop and punch using a finger size builder as well. So let me show these objects. I just have a band swept here. I've got a stone and a ring size builder. So for example, I want to create a bezel, and bezels by default are flat on the bottom, and you may want to cut off some of that excess and make it match the shape of your finger, so round. So you can select the object and the ring size builder, and using just a crop and punch, you can crop off the inside of that circle. So validate that, and we get the crop and punch. Now you want to be very careful if you select the ring size builder and then the object and launch crop and punch. You'll see that the, let me do that the other way. Select the object and then the ring size builder. You'll see that it mixes up, and because that's technically not a curve, so it confuses the input here, and it puts the bezel in the curve section instead of the ring size builder. So if you ever validate your crop and punch using a ring size builder and your object disappears like this, know that that's what's happened. So just reselect and do the object, ring size first and then the object, so that they are in the correct order here. So that's all that happens there. So to avoid that, if you are cropping with just the ring size builder, instead you can switch over to the jeweler's bench, and down here is the trim to finger size tool. So this does the exact same thing. It's only going to crop what's inside your finger circle. So you can build things that kind of overlap into the inside of your finger and then just trim away those excess parts. The other neat thing you can do here is an offset, either positive or negative, and you can offset this curve by a certain amount so that it doesn't crop it at exactly the same level as your finger circle. So this is also a shortcut for offsetting the curve and then cropping and punching it. So a great little tool. like I said, it doesn't do anything new or different. It's just a really nice shortcut if you want to quickly crop it, and especially if you want to offset it a little bit. So for example here, we don't want the Boolean to cause problems with having two surfaces exactly the same. So that's it. Hopefully you learned something about these two nice shortcut tools, and we'll see you next time in the quick tip section.